Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Prime robot enhanced design Knockout. Undeniably the figure that I was the most looking forward to out of this fifth wave. I do believe that he is packaged with a repaint version of Optimus Prime that's supposed to be Ultra Magnus. In my opinion, an incredibly lazy repaint, and to start off with, the Optimus Prime figure isn't the best, and just overall this R.E.D line appears to be majorly missing the mark. To me, I really do think they could do something pretty damn awesome with this line, but as it stands they're trickling out 2 releases per every 5 months, and some of those releases are incredibly lackluster. 9 times out of 10 it is merely just one new figure repacked with a repaint, and honestly I think that if they just stuck to Transformers Prime characters and even live action movie characters, then this line would be selling so much better than it has. Now you can see that in terms of Knockout, this is a direct carryover from how he appeared in Transformers Prime, which personally I am so grateful for. Apparently we're expecting to see Knockout in the Transformers Legacy line, but judging by RC and Bulkhead, he will of course be incredibly stylized. So I'm in fact incredibly excited to get this true to form version of Knockout, and their version of RC was in fact actually pretty cool, probably the best looking figure that we've seen so far. So you can see that in regards to the box art, looking absolutely fantastic. We've got a killer image there of Knockout with his actual buzzsaw looking cool. You can see in terms of the window display, we've got the figure clearly here with all of the accessories displayed along the side, and surprisingly he actually comes with pretty much everything we saw him use in the show, which is a really nice touch. And then as we just spin our attention to the back, of course we've got some wicked prem images there of the back of Knockout, some of the different accessories, some close-ups of the actual head sculpt, and in all he's looking to be a very impressive looking figure. So without further ado, let's crack Knockout open and see whether or not he is in fact actually a Knockout. And so here we have the Transformers Prime Knockout, and does the figure look the part? Absolutely. My goodness, this is such a fantastic looking figure. Probably the best robot mode we've seen for Knockout from the Transformers Prime series. I think they've done a smashing job, and to be honest, if they continued putting out Transformers Prime characters that looked as good as Knockout and RC, honestly this red line, I would be picking them up all day and all night. But is this a good action figure? No, definitely by no stretch of the imagination. It still sadly has all of the same issues that I've mentioned so many times in the previous videos, and if Hasbro are not going to start acting on some of these critiques, I really am quite unsure to the longevity of this line in the next 12 or 18 months, as to be honest, when compared to some of the other Hasbro 6-inch figure lines, these pale in comparison. Honestly, the articulation is something that you would expect from, say, a 2010 era release, definitely not 2022, but we'll touch base with that later on in the video. You can see that in regards to the sculpt work, oh my goodness, this just looks fantastic. I loved the TF Prime designs. They were a great blend of the old and the new aesthetic, of course incredibly stylized. They almost had an anime quality to them, and they were incredibly distinguished. And to me, even to this date, there has been no design from a cartoon series that has come close to reaching how awesome the Prime designs turned out. You can see here for the head sculpt, that just looks so well done. Even the paintwork for the eyes is actually really impressive. You can see the eyebrows, the mouth, the crest detailing looks fantastic. I think the paintwork here for these shoulder sections has surprisingly actually turned out a lot better than I was expecting. And as we spin our attention to the back, considering this guy doesn't transform, you can see there is next to no excess vehicle mode kibble. We merely just have the wheels here at the top, which I actually think look really nicely done. You can see completely painted there where the rims are concerned, and as we flip here to the back, you can see the sculpt work looks very nicely done. You can see here really nice sculpt work. I will however say the grey plastic they've used is slightly too bland. I maybe would have liked to have seen perhaps a gunmetal. I think that would have better matched what we saw from the show, and overall would have made this guy look slightly more interesting. But as it stands, I think that's just a minor critique. You can see here for the chest piece, that looks super well done. We've got the headlights, metallic silver, as well as some golden highlights, and the shoulder design is actually really awesome. You can see how we've got these 3 spikes protruding off to the side, of which actually have also been painted pretty nicely, and the same can also be said of course for Knockout's signature paintwork here along one of the doors of the vehicle mode. That looks so nice. You can see that purple metallic there, as well as the window. You can see a nice silver trim, as well as one of the actual side view mirrors, and even as we flip here to the interior, you can see some nice golden detailing, and I actually really like the sculpt work here to the fingers. Very accurate to what we in fact actually saw from many of the Prime designs. Now as we just take a look at the torso, this too has also been sculpted really nicely. You can see some of the nice ab detailing, and the same can also be said here for down to the lower section. I do still think the thighs look slightly bland. Once again, metallic silver or a gunmetal grey I think would have looked a lot better, but the sculpt work for these legs looks great, especially if you turn them here to the side. We do in fact actually actually get a fully sculpted in wheel embedded within this, which is not only accurate to the design, but I think is a great attention to detail. Really looking great, especially here from this angle. You can see how we've got that golden trim, and the actual toe also has been painted pretty nicely. Now, other than the articulation being absolutely terrible, I think the build quality and just the materials overall, in particular here for Knockout, are a major downgrade when in comparison to some of the other Hasbro action figure lines. He's just so loose and floppy. It really does feel like jelly. You can see just by holding him here by the knees, if I bring him forward, he just rocks about. It literally makes posing this guy near enough impossible. You can see just by holding one of the legs, how the entire body bends to the right. It's just really poor. I have no idea as to why they are using this super rubbery, super pliable material for these figures. Some of the other figures out there, such as the G.I. Joe Classified series, are a lot more firmer when in comparison to these R.E.D series. But in regards to articulation, the head is sadly very limited. We do of course get rotation left to right, but next to no movement going up, which is really bad. And it can kind of look down, but once again, not to the greatest degree. We do surprisingly get a butterfly joint, but due to the nature of the design, this is incredibly restricted, so you can see a really minimal range of motion out there. And due to the shoulder design, the hinge joint out to the side is once again very poor. We can't even get a 90-degree range there. However, we do get a full 360 here at the bicep, a double joint here at the elbow, which actually can bend to a pretty decent degree. Here for the wrist, this can rotate the full 360, hinge back and forth. We also do get an ab crunch, which sadly, much like some of their other figures, can't really crunch forwards the greatest, but can in fact actually crunch back to a pretty decent range. We do get a full waist rotation, albeit very loose and floppy. The legs can kick forwards that far, which isn't too bad at all, as well as can kick back to that far, hinge out to the sides, rotation here at the thigh, as well as sadly only a single joint here at the knee. And considering this guy doesn't transform, I definitely think they could have packed either an extendable joint for you to maximize that range of motion, or maybe a double joint. I really do think this is pretty poor. We can also rotate here where the knee is concerned, and due to the nature of the design, he doesn't sadly actually have a proper ankle pivot. And to be honest, I really do find that just to be an excuse, as I definitely think they could have created a hinge joint here so that you could have bent the entire foot, as it stands, it really is just this toe, much like we saw with RC, which to be honest is pretty much useless. So in regards to articulation, honestly, I do once again find him to be incredibly lackluster, and the materials too are also not of the greatest quality. Now, in regards to accessories, this is actually where I think this figure shines when in comparison to some of the R.E.D figures. So you may have seen that he does in fact actually come with this drill attachment, looking really awesome. The sculpt work is fantastic, cast out of grey. You can see we've got some nice red detailing. We also do get this relaxed open palm, which I think has got some great sculpt work, but he also comes with so many other weapons, some of which I didn't even remember him utilizing in the show. So we get this massive drill piece. I believe he's about to use this when he's going to torture one of the Autobots, but you can see completely cast out of grey, really nice sculpt work. Very easy to swap these out, so we just pop this off like so, and then snap that section in there, so you can see that looks really cool. You can have him drilling away, torturing those Autobots all day long. We can of course swap this out for a buzzsaw, which I also thought was a great inclusion. Sadly, it doesn't spin, but the sculpt work on that really does look pretty awesome. And we also do get a few interchangeable hands. So most noticeably would be these open grips. This is of course so that you can in fact actually have him holding his signature weapon, that being the trident. You can see the sculpt work on that is actually really nicely done. Definitely captures the appearance from the show, completely cast out of black, but it's really easy to just insert here into the fingers. And sadly, due to the articulation, the hinge joint only hinges forwards and backwards, so you can't in fact actually have it tilting down to create some of those more stylistic poses that we've seen from some of the official art of Knockout. So that once again is a slight downgrade. And the other hands that he comes with is an open palm for this side, I imagine, so that you can get both hands actually gripping the trident as well as one fisted hand. So overall, in regard to accessories, definitely really well done. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that unlike RC, Primal, as well as I believe also Cheetor, he has no removable armor to reveal some internal detailing. So I'm not sure whether or not they've decided to scrap that completely for these figures going forward, but that is just something worth mentioning. You can remove the wheels, although it's mainly due to how he comes packaged, so just to showcase how that looks, but they can be very easily reattached. So overall, definitely looks the part, but in regards to articulation and materials, much like the majority of these Red figures, I personally find falls incredibly short when in comparison to what you would expect from a modern day 6-inch action figure. Here for a very quick comparison, we've got Knockout compared next to the TF Prime R.E.D RC, both fantastic looking figures. As mentioned beforehand, I really do think these Prime inspired characters are by far the best we've seen from this line as a whole. I think their designs have been perfectly captured, and they're so much better than what Legacy is giving us, in my opinion. So for those of you who in fact actually want solely based Transformers Prime designs, then this is definitely the line for you. But once again, they really do just take so damn long to actually put these out. It's been almost 5 months since that Optimus Primal and reformatting Megatron wave, and it's been over a year since we did in fact actually get this RC. So it's taken them 12 months to give us yet another TF Prime inspired character, and considering this line doesn't really appear to be selling all that well, I'm really not sure whether or not it's going to be around come 12 to 18 months in the future. I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you guys think that it is a good idea? Do you in fact actually own any of these figures in the collection? Would you guys be slightly more interested had they put more TF Prime characters in, perhaps characters from Armada or the live action movies, instead of solely focusing mainly on the Generation 1 lineup, especially considering that at the time of the first wave, we'd really been in the thick of the War for Cybertron trilogy that was solely based on those G1 designs. So I just thought that it was kind of pointless for them to basically release Optimus, Megatron and Soundwave, when for a very similar price point you could have got a fully transforming figure of those characters, of which actually looked slightly better in my opinion. And so some final thoughts for this Transformers Prime robot enhanced design Knockout. As an actual figure, I definitely think this guy looks the part. If you're after the best looking Knockout from Transformers Prime, then I think this is the figure to get. He really does look pretty awesome. But much like the previous Red figures, in terms of articulation, I still do think that just as a whole, this line is majorly lacking, especially when in comparison to some of the other Hasbro 6-inch action figure lines such as Marvel Legends, G.I. Joe Classified series, and even Black series. They all appear to have more POA than this Red series line, and you can definitely see that here with Knockout. I have no idea as to why we still don't have double joints in the knees, drop down hips, of course a better range of motion in terms of the torso, and the fact that the head really can't look up, in my opinion, is a massive downfall. I also don't think the articulation where the ankles are concerned is all that great. The accessories are fantastic. He comes with a great load of accessories, honestly more than I was expecting them to in fact actually package in with this guy, and there's even some that I personally can't even recall seeing in the series. So they definitely did go all out in that regard, and I think that's a really nice touch. But I still do just think that overall they are massively missing the mark on this Red line. These figures cannot transform, so the fact that some of the actual transforming figures out there have more POA than these action figures is definitely something that I really hope they improve on sooner rather than later, as I'm really not entirely sure to the longevity of this line. I'm not entirely convinced that it has yet another 12 or 18 months left in it, especially if Hasbro are still going to put out slightly lukewarm figures. Personally, I think the Transformers Prime characters are definitely the best way to go, especially considering that their legacy offerings are incredibly stylized. I think for those out there who want true to form Transformers Prime designs, then these Red figures are certainly the way to go, and at least to me, Knockout and RC have certainly been the best out of the entire bunch. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Are you guys in fact actually collecting any of these Red series figures? If you have perhaps picked them up in the past, are you going to be continuing the line, or for whatever reason did you decide to give them up? I'd really love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Also be sure to let me know on what you guys think of this Transformers Prime inspired Knockout, and as always, I thank you guys all so much for watching. Until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.